Let's start with that nuclear power plant. Show us where it is and the significance of its location.
That's right, Joe. Zaporizhia is what we were talking about last night. A few key notes about it. We saw some video that you might have seen out on social media of a firefight in and around those reactors. What do the Russians want to do? They want to take control of the entire energy sector because they can use that when they're doing siege warfare like we're seeing in many cities around Ukraine to take control essentially of the power sources. But separately, the more important point might be psychological, injecting fear into audiences while we're trying to get to the bottom of what happened here last night. Is it safe? I would bet that Russian disinformation broadcast back at home is saying that this is the Ukrainians possibly using some sort of nuclear material or causing a blast. We saw that last week when Chernobyl was taken back. The last thing I want to add, just from a military perspective, is we keep seeing these discussions of nuclear sites. Nuclear sites also have massive railheads. If you are an invading army with large armor formations, you're bogged down logistically, and you want to move things very quickly over time, taking railheads, particularly those that are outside of cities, is extremely important. So there's another logistical component for them because they are not doing well on the roads right now. The other thing that I want to bring up here is while we've talked about the first week and 2 days, the Russians really struggling, Ukrainians overachieving, the Russians are now using that combat power to take hold. Several things have happened over the last 48 hours. First, this unit in Crimea, this is the peninsula they seized back in 2014. It has created a land bridge to its forces here in Donbass. Those forces now are surrounding this town here of Mariupol. Mika was showing some video there. This is total war, siege warfare, indirect fire, cutting off infrastructure. These folks are in for absolute disaster right now. Separately, Kherson, that's the other breakaway Mika was talking about. Kherson is essentially the mouth of the Dnieper River as it enters into the Black Sea, and there is a bridge here in Kherson which allows the Russian military to move to the western side of Ukraine. If they can do that, they can possibly march all the way to the Moldovan border, essentially sealing off this entire area here. There would be no sea resupply. There would be no way to get logistics in, and it allows the Russians then to start using things like landing crafts to essentially bring in more forces and more quickly in the south.
Holy crap. That is devastating news. That map, that explanation, that's Clint Watts there, who you may be familiar with, is devastating information. So Mariupol, as of yesterday, we had audio from the deputy mayor in Mariupol yesterday telling us that the Russians had turned off the water, the Russians had turned off the electricity, and that they were in the city killing people and that they needed help. They were terrified. It was, you know, pretty much the worst scenario that anybody could ever imagine befalling Ukraine in Europe, where there was no civil war, there was no strife, there was no nothing. They did nothing at all to anybody, ever. So, and then after, well, here, I'll play you the deputy governor, Sergei Olaf, I'm sorry, he's the deputy mayor of Mariupol, telling you we need help. There's something really, it's crazy here.
The situation in city is quite critical because you clearly right that city is surrounded by Russian troops, Russian army. City is internally Ukrainian. It's controlled by Ukrainian army and National Guard. But the situation in city goes to humanitarian crisis because Russian army, so their style of war is to make humanitarian crisis. For example, we do not have electricity in whole city. We do not have water supply. We do not have sanitary system, and we do not have heating. Only natural gas supplement is left, and it continues for 1 day and a half. So we have continuous shelling for 26 hours. 26 hours they are destroying our city. So from all the weapons, from artillery, from airplane bombing, from tactical rockets, from multiple launch rocket system. So situation is very bad, and it's for me internally also because my parents and my brother lived on left bank of the river, it's Levoberezhny district, and I don't have connection with them for 1 day and a half. No cellular phone is working, and I cannot go there.
So that's the deputy mayor of Mariupol yesterday showing you his town is gone, that the civilians, the people that live there, work there, the people, their children, their houses, their apartment, everything just blasted, everything shelled, everything bombed, everything gone. And on top of it, this is the way Putin fights. Putin literally turns off your heat. He turns off your water. He turns off your electricity. He's a terrorist. And he terrorizes the entire population as he's killing you, because that is the way Russians fight. They don't give a damn about rules of war, civilians versus military, legitimate targets versus illegitimate targets like schools and kindergartens, hospitals. You know, there's a professional army and there's the Russian army. And that is a brutalizing force. That is a force that actually preaches, literally, they're trained to be brutal. They're trained to be cruel. They say that's the only way to win. It's the only way to win. And that's why Trump loved Vladimir Putin. That's why he loved him. He wanted to do these things. He wanted to bomb nuclear reactors. You know, Trump's like, he's probably sitting there, you know, in Mar-a-Lago going, you could do that? You can do that? Yes, if you want to be the president of hell, you can do that. And that's what's going to be left over there, is a burnt out hell, a hellscape. A democratic country that did absolutely nothing at all to anybody that was the remotest threatening posture in the history of the world. And they're being murdered, terrorized. This is terrorism. That is what this is. This is state terrorism. You are watching a man commit war crimes on your TV. On your TV. And here's the really sick part about it. He will never be held accountable. Never. He will either bite down on a cyanide capsule in the end, blow his brains out, or come here and live in Mar-a-Lago like the pariahs do. But will Vladimir Putin ever have to face The Hague, the international tribunal that prosecutes war crimes? No. He's too old, and he'll never, ever be held accountable for any of the murder, any of the terrorism, any of the mess he's making. And he knows it. And he knows it. And I tell you, there's only one person in the world that thinks that is enviable, and that is our past president. Our past president is sitting there saying, well, this is the ride 'em, cowboy. This is the greatest president ever. Why can't we do that? Because we're not Bond villains, because we don't want to rule over hell, a post-apocalyptic hell.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
This is the worst military aggression in Europe for decades. With the cities under siege, schools, hospitals, and residential buildings shelled, reckless actions around a nuclear power plant last night, and many civilians killed or wounded. The days to come are likely to be worse, with more death, more suffering, and more destruction. As the Russian armed forces bring in heavier weaponry and continue their attacks across the country.
That is Jens Stoltenberg, who is the Secretary General of NATO, telling you that the world is watching the worst destruction of a European city in decades. that the world is actually standing there. He sees it, and Macron was on the phone with Putin, and Putin told him, hey, man, this is just the beginning. The worst is yet to come. And, Macron tells everybody, I just got off the phone with him, and he says this is just the beginning and the worst is yet. And still we do nothing. Still we do nothing. We just sit here, and they at NATO and they around the world are looking at this and saying, this is the worst thing we've seen since World War II. But this is not our conflict. This one's not ours either. What? How is this not our conflict? I swear to God. So I want to play you what he said so that it's not coming from me. So you can hear what NATO's Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said. That was his warning. Now here is him saying that NATO will only defend NATO.
At our meeting today, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Kuleba addressed his NATO counterparts, and allies expressed their solidarity and deep respect for the courage of the Ukrainian people and armed forces. We had warned for many months that President Putin was intent on invading Ukraine. That is why NATO allies made tireless efforts to find a diplomatic solution. At the same time, we made clear that Russia would pay a very high price for renewed aggression against Ukraine. Russia is paying that price now. This is President Putin's war, one he has chosen, planned, and is waging against a peaceful country.
Really?
We call on President Putin to stop this war immediately. Withdraw all his forces from Ukraine without conditions, and engage in genuine diplomacy now. NATO allies have stepped up support for Ukraine, helping to uphold the country's right of self-defense as enshrined in the UN Charter. Today, ministers addressed our immediate response to the crisis and the longer-term implications for Euro-Atlantic security. We have already strengthened our deterrence and defense on land, in the air, and at sea. Allies from North America and Europe have sent thousands more troops to the eastern part of the alliance. We are deploying the NATO response force for the first time. And we have over 130 jets at high alert and over 200 ships from the high north to the Mediterranean. We will continue to do what it takes to protect and defend every inch of NATO territory.
But just NATO territory. And Ukraine didn't quite make it in. So, screw you. I don't get this. He's telling you right there, we have 200 ships available to us. We have air power. We have NATO troops. We have forces. We have all kinds of communications. We have everything we need. But until and unless they put a toenail in Poland or in Hungary or in Lithuania or in Latvia or in, a NATO country, we'll just be over here. We'll just be here. And he literally says this in this brief little pass here. This is really, of all the clips, I will save this one. I will save this one.
NATO is a defensive alliance. Our core task is to keep our 30 nations safe. We are not part of this conflict. And we have a responsibility to ensure it does not escalate and spread beyond Ukraine. Because that would be even more devastating and more dangerous, with even more human suffering. NATO is not seeking a war with Russia.
But Russia is seeking a world war. So what do you do about that little factoid there? What do you do about that? Putin isn't going to stop with Ukraine, just like Putin didn't stop with Syria, okay? Putin did not until everybody is dead. And he's going to move right into Moldova, which is the next state over, And they're not part of NATO either. The entire southern access to the Black Sea for Ukraine is going to be taken away. And even when it's over, Ukraine will then be a landlocked country with no ability to export or import bread and wheat. They're the breadbasket of that area. That's what they grow. They grow, wheat. They also have other industries there. It's a thriving, peaceful nation. That's what irritates Vlad so much. He doesn't want the Russians to see a thriving, peaceful, prosperous, free nation. He doesn't want Russians to see that that is possible. He doesn't want Russians to know that that is happening right there below them. He doesn't want Russians to know that Ukraine has been successful with its democracy. Same thing. This is why he attacked us here and tried to tear us apart here. He doesn't want Russians to believe that democracy itself works as a system. He doesn't want people to believe in his state that, not having a strong man, not having, a daddy government is possible and prosperous. That's what this is all about. This has nothing to do with Ukraine and NATO. As you can see, Ukraine is not part of NATO. He just hates democracy. He hates it so much that every single person that supports it must die. Every single person. This is going to be scorched earth. This is going to be complete and utter decimation of a modern European democracy. Did you ever wonder, if we had to be around, like if we were around when, Big H over there started his march into Czechoslovakia and Poland, and what would we do? What would America have done? Well, now you know, nothing.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Whoops, I forgot to tell you, today is a match day for Free Speech TV during the Spring Pledge Drive, which, we do every spring to try to make payroll for Free Speech TV. And so what is match day? Well, that means that we have frontline funders. And in this case, we have Joe in D.C., Rodney in Utah, William in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, and David in Colorado, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Janet in Illinois, Stephanie in Massachusetts, Suzanne in Virginia, and Charlene in Texas, who are willing to match your pledge dollar for dollar up to $10,000. Okay. So your dollar becomes two, your 100 becomes 200. And as we're talking about Russia, just remember, what does Vlad go after? What is one of the first things he goes after? Independent media. I was just telling you, he shut down the two independent media outlets that Russians depend on to get free and factual information. The Echo Moscow and TV Rain. He literally shut them down. He shut them down. They're off the air. That's creepy. It's our version. It's their version of us. It's their version of Free Speech TV. Done. Gone. Plug pulled. That's how fast this stuff happens. That's how fast it unravels when you have autocrats that want to keep people confused, chaotic, unaware, just disoriented, and and disinformed. So please do support your local independent media outlet. That would be us. Freespeech.org is where you would go. Or you can dial us at 877-378-8669 right there, 877-378-8669. Or the newfangled way, which I really like, is, the text. I love to text. So 44321 is our number, and you just text to 44321 the letters FSTV. You do that, we'll send you a secure link, and you can commit whatever you want to commit. And if you do it today, it will be matched dollar for dollar. So we thank our frontline funders. We thank you. Please don't wait to the end to support independent media. Thank you. All right, Brother David in Kansas.
Sister, unhappy fractured fascist Friday.
Yes.
And here we are. The whole world is watching.
Watching, waiting, listening. Some are on bended knee, trying to beg for help. I don't understand why we have all this firepower and we just never use it. I don't get it.
I wish I could answer that, but neither do I. The reason I always say to the chat room and the Facebook feed and all, tell people and all that, well, it goes for this too. We are the new underground. We are above ground. But in this post-quickening, social media-fueled way, this is where the resistance is. And I just echo everything you just said before I came on about texting and da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
So let me tell you what we want to text, okay? This is what we want.
Yes.
I mean, this is what we want to tell people around the world. This is the message. So when this first started, I told people, okay, this is it. Get on social media, use whatever platform you're comfortable with, and start showing support for Ukraine, right? Well, now we're a week and a few days into this. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I know we had some sound problems, so let me repeat it. Ukraine is still here today, but I don't know about next week, the end of next week. We're still here today, but I don't know about the end of next week, right? So this is it. This is critical mass. This is the time where we actually reach out to Russian citizens as best as we can on our Facebooks, Twitters, TikTok. Some of them are still on there. You got your Telegram, you got your WhatsApp, which is an international encrypted messaging system. And you tell them, go out in the street. He's terrified of you. He's scared of grandma. He's scared of you. He's scared of the kids. He's scared of the teenagers. He's scared of his people. And go out and protest and show the whole world that you will throw this man out, that you will get rid of him. It is what needs to happen now.
Word, sister.
Yep.
Word to infinity.
I'm telling you. It's
why President Pop, in his hit the ground running, overcome usual stumbles, keep on the course, clear final hurdles, nail the landing, State of the Union address, began and ended on this very same issue.
Yeah. Go get him is what he said. Go get him. And that means go to the streets. That's what that means. It means get out there and go to the streets and scare the bejesus out of Vlad. Let him know that not only are his neighbors furious, Poland and Hungary and Lithuania and Latvia and Estonia and Montenegro and all those NATO countries, but that Russians know what's going on.
You are furious because he is doing this to you as much as he is.
It's the only thing he's afraid of. Yeah. It's the only thing he fears. It's the only thing he's scared of is his people. That's it.
Well, then we need to, since we are the people and we are coming, we need to each find a Russian out there and do just what you just said.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the ripple, not the sea, that is happening, sister.
That's it. That's exactly it. So go be Johnny Appleseed and, put the seed in someone's head to organize a massive protest in Russia because, frankly, he can't arrest everybody. He's arrested 8,000 people. He's arrested children. He arrested a lady. This lady, she has to be in her 80s, okay? I mean, and he literally arrested her. He literally arrested an old lady. I don't know which cut it is, but, there's this woman, she's definitely in her 80s. She's definitely up there with a stupid little sign that says no nuclear war. Stupid little sign. And what does he do? He literally tells his security services to go put her in jail. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It should tell you everything. It should tell you how frightened he is, that people will join together in St. Petersburg, in Moscow, in, all of the places in Russia, all of the cities, all of the burbs, all of the neighborhoods, all of and that they will get out on the street and he will lose control. He will lose control. That's all he's scared of. Here it is. Here's the elder. Look at this woman. Oh, yeah. They arrested her. They arrested her. That tells you everything you need to know. Everything you need to know. And what are they? They're chanting "Niet Venier." no, I know my Russian is terrible, but it means no war. That's all it means. Niet. When you see something that looks like, to us, it looks like an H, that's a N. So when you see HET, that's niet. Just thought we would do that together, just really briefly, so you could start to, figure out how to type in niet van je. No war. That's all. And he has this little woman arrested and children. There were 6-year-olds in prison for holding little signs that they made with their crayons that said exactly that. That said net van je. Van je. He's afraid of his people. So when you have a tyrant and you're looking for his Achilles heel and you find it, that's where you go. That's where you put the pressure. And his Achilles heel, his biggest fear in life. You know where he is? Do you know where he is? He's like in Siberia. I swear, he took his whole family. He's somewhere in the Ural Mountains. That's where, idiot boy is. That's where tough guy, all 5'6" of him. That swarthy, imposing thing of a man. That's where he is. He's in hiding in the Ural Mountains. In eastern Russia somewhere. He's scared of his own people. We have to scare him so bad that the little tab of cyanide that I'm sure he has with him at all times goes in the mouth. Do you know what I'm saying? Russ in New York City.
Oh, hi, Randy. Was I mistaken? Because I thought Syria invited Russia in to fight off the U.S.
Yeah, Al-Assad, what's his name? But
Bashar, right?
Bashar Assad, right? He invited them in, right?
Yes, because we left. First of all, we left, and he's a dictator, and he was looking at freedom fighters, people that were trying to overthrow him. And he turned to Putin and said, you come in here. And Putin said, yeah, okay, I will. I need a place in the warm Mediterranean, and I don't have any warm waters. And so, yeah, I would love to, have a place in the Middle East.
Right, but Ukraine didn't invite Russia in. I mean, Ukraine...
No.
Right, okay. Hey, I want to let you know, though, Dish TV and cable companies are removing Russia Today, the network Russia Today.
It's done. It's over. It's gone.
Yeah. The media is an extension of our militaristic U.S. government, and I'm surprised I didn't see a picture of Putin with incubators under his arm. But
what are you talking about? RT is owned by Vladimir Putin and Gazprom. It has nothing to do with our government. Like zero, nothing, zip, nada.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Secretary General, even General Breedlove, former SACEUR, expressed an opinion that NATO and US have to provide, as soon as possible, help to Ukraine and to close partially, with humanitarian purpose only, sky in Ukraine. All Ukrainians are begging for this. Do you think at some point allies can review this position? How long it will take, and will be enough of Ukraine to be destroyed by Putler? Thank you.
Putler.
What is taking place in Ukraine now is horrific. It's painful, and we see human suffering, we see destruction at a scale we haven't seen in Europe since the Second World War. And I would like to commend the courage of the Ukrainian people standing up against the Russian invasion, standing up against Putin's forces. And that's also the reason why we are stepping up our support, and also why NATO allies have implemented the most severe sanctions ever, and also why we are mobilizing support from the whole world in condemning and calling on Russia and President Putin to end this war. At the same time, we have a responsibility as NATO allies to prevent this war from escalating beyond Ukraine, because that will be even more dangerous, more devastating, and will cause even more human suffering. So we have made it clear that we are not going to move into Ukraine, neither on the ground or in the Ukrainian airspace. And of course, the only way to implement a no-fly zone is to send NATO planes, fighter planes, into Ukrainian airspace, and then impose that no-fly zone by shooting down Russian planes. And our assessment is that we understand the desperation, but we also believe that if we did that, we'll end up with something that could end in a full-fledged war in Europe, involving many more countries, and causing much more human suffering. So that's the reason why we make this painful decision to impose heavy sanctions, provide significant support, stepping up support, but at the same time not involving NATO and NATO forces directly in the conflict in Ukraine, neither on ground or in the airspace.
Okay, so that's Jens Stoltenberg. He's the Secretary General of NATO, answering a question of a reporter from Interfax Ukraine about when are you going to set up a humanitarian only, not even the whole country, just the southern part that's being crushed, no-fly zone. And that is his answer. His answer is that if NATO would, do anything at all, they fear that this would spread, this devastation, this bombing, this attack that Putin has chosen to subject peaceful democratic Ukraine to would spread to other countries in Europe. That is the best argument that he could make for watching and doing nothing, knowing what was happening, knowing that last night they took over a nuclear reactor, knowing that they are committing acts of terrorism around nuclear reactors, that the first object of their desire, of their conquest, was Chernobyl. And now they take over this other nuclear facility that's got 6 nuclear reactors, and they're looking at taking over a third. And currently, the one that is operational, the modern one that they took last night, which they are occupying, they have control of it. They are forcing the Ukrainian engineers. Every time I say that, I think of The Simpsons, okay? I think of Homer, who worked in a nuclear power plant. They're forcing Homer to do his job at gunpoint, machine guns at these people's backs and heads. While they are there, and they've been there for more than 24 hours running this nuclear power plant at gunpoint, being held at gunpoint by Russians, among the dead. There are dead bodies from that firefight last night. Their coworkers are laying dead. Now, I just thought I would just paint the picture for you about what's going on. And NATO is saying, well, we don't want it to spread beyond Ukraine. And that's our decision, and we're not going to set up a no-fly zone. All right, so let me offer some alternative ideas. And I'm sitting here in Del Rey, and I'm thinking, if I could think of this in a commerce park in Del Rey Beach, Florida, I'm sure they can think of this at NATO headquarters in Brussels. So here's some of the ideas. I don't know what happened to the transfer of the old Russian MiGs from Poland to the fighters in Ukraine, but that really needs to happen. So you take donated aircraft from NATO countries who typically fly Russian MiGs. They fly the old-fashioned Russian MiG-29s. And what's really crazy good is that the Ukrainian pilots know this equipment so well that they don't need any stinking training. They can pick the planes up and they can create somewhat of a no-fly zone in areas that desperately need them, like the southern portion of Ukraine, now that we know what he's trying to accomplish. He's trying to cut Now, the next city to go is where my family, you know, I don't know if you realize this. My grandma, who was born on the border, on the Belarus side of the Belarus-Ukraine border, Mary, who I look exactly like. And there's a woman in one of my clips that looks exactly like my grandma. We're all from the same tribe. I know it's crazy. She's one of 13 children. Did you know that? No. So 13 children. Some of them died. Some of them didn't make it. Some died in childbirth. Some died from the flu. And some moved to Odessa. See. Some moved to Lviv and some moved to Odessa. And Odessa is about to be assaulted by sea. Okay? There's going to be an assault on... And I don't know if you know what it looks like, but it's a beautiful, beautiful little beach town, okay? It's a port city, but it's a beach town. It's got beach on the Black Sea. And they're about to invade Odessa. Let's have a no-fly zone, please. Can we just please have one? If that's not going to work for Poland and, the people who have to donate the damn planes, here's this very strange idea. I don't even know if this would work, but I will give it to them to groupthink it to death. What if, just saying, American pilots who can fly F-15s, F-16, I mean like serious, great freaking fighter jets that we have. So what if we donated some of these awesome fighter planes, which obviously the Ukrainians who are used to flying old Russian equipment wouldn't be familiar with. So we would need American pilots to fly these planes, but we can't do that because that would invite Russian attacks on us if American citizens were flying those things, right? Well, what if we donated them, repainted them, gave them the Ukrainian, insignias and tails and all that. And then the Americans who would be needed to fly it actually, let's say, become Ukrainian citizens. See what I mean? So they're not Americans. They're Ukrainian citizens who, through the goodness of their heart, have relinquished their American citizenry just for this brief moment in time to become Ukrainian citizens in order to fly this equipment. Just some ideas if NATO doesn't want to become, involved. For you, NATO.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Want to see what my grandma looked like? I'm going to show you these ladies here. This one woman, okay, here in this clip, looks exactly like my grandma. I mean, exactly like her. It's crazy.
Mothers knit camouflage netting while, like Nelia, their daughters fight. Hers staying behind to defend Kiev.
We know the danger, we know that it will come, but we didn't know when will it come. And I asked them, children, come here, please, be safe, come to me. But they didn't want. No, Mom, please stay alive, stay safe, but we will defend because everybody loves our motherland, everybody. Sorry. Everybody wants to be independent, to be free. They decided to stay there, and I can't influence their decision. But I pray every day, I pray every night for them to stay alive.
The defiant words of the Ukrainian soldiers of Snake Island, who told a Russian ship where to shove it, echo here.
I don't know. Russian ship.
That's grandma. That's my grandma Mary right there. We are that was Mom's in Odessa, which is the very southern portion of Ukraine, which is just about to get attacked. Okay, and sorry, the bravery of these people, these women, these families, these ordinary citizens it's breathtaking. All they want is to be left alone. All they want is to be free. All they want is to be independent. All they want is to just have these people go home. It's all they're asking for. They've done nothing. Nothing wrong, nothing untoward, nothing threatening, nothing at all. In fact, they gave up their nuclear weapons. In exchange, they were told they would have protection if Russia ever attacked them. They would have protection. And they believed that. Anita in Texas.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Yeah, I don't think the American citizen would have to become a Ukrainian citizen to fight. I mean, we've done that before.
Yes, we have done that before.
We had the Flying Tigers.
Right.
And
good for you.
Yeah, a lot of people, I watch a lot of documentaries, History Channel.
That's great.
Anyway, yeah, no, I think the reason why we're so afraid of NATO being drawn in is because this is the fastest way Putin would have to get the people behind him. Because they have been fed all their life anti-NATO propaganda, and they've been told that Zelensky's a puppet of NATO. So they're trying really hard not to give Putin any reason, to get, because we want the people to
have you seen what he's done already? Have you seen the damage? I mean, come on, it all bets are off. The people in Russia. Listen, I know Russians too. Okay. And Russians have absolutely no love for this man. They really do not. They know he's a monster. But they understand they're not free.
But they're being fed all this propaganda. You heard that guy that just called you.
They are.
The guy that Putin apologist that just called you about, our media just feeding us.
So let me just tell you that the Russians are the ones who pulled the plug from Russian TV. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Misha Solodovnikov, I guess that's how you pronounce her name. Yeah, Solodovnikov. She's the general manager of RT, which is a fully owned state-run media owned by Vladimir Putin's Russia. And she called everyone in yesterday and said, we're ceasing operations. Everyone's fired permanently. Go home. So we didn't pull the plug on any media. Okay. Meanwhile, he pulled the plug on the two independent channels that they had in Russia. The Echo TV and Rain TV pulled the plug on both of those. Has banned Radio Free Europe from Russia, limited access to Facebook and Twitter, but he's afraid to turn off the internet because he knows the young kids in Russia love TikTok.
Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah.
And if he pulled the plug, he would lose them. Completely. They would riot. They would go crazy. So
what we're trying to do is get a revolution. I mean, Russia has a history of
nobody has to really get hurt in this revolution. Okay, the only people that support Vladimir Putin, from what I know about Russia and Russians, are old, cranky, men.
Yeah.
Right. Just like here, the ones that watch, Fox News, it's a tiny little sliver of the population that says, hey, the good old Soviet Union, we blew it in 1991 and blah, blah, blah. The rest of them are so wanting to be Western. They're so wanting to breathe free. They love the internet. They love everything they see on the internet, and they want a piece of it.
Well, that's why Ukraine is such a threat.
Yes, exactly.
But Moldova is part of NATO now. This only happened like a couple of years ago. Remember when they all met and they had the members of NATO? I guess it was the G7, and Trump was like
trying to get
rude and push that guy. The leader.
No, that's Montenegro.
No, are you sure? Because Moldova, I looked it up. I googled it to make sure.
No, that was Montenegro. That was the president of Montenegro that he pushed aside, not Moldova.
Well, I looked it up, and Moldova is a part of NATO now. I mean, it's the newest member. So check on that.
I do have to check on that. But I will tell you this, that there's a city right on the border between Ukraine. It's on the border of Ukraine and Moldova, and it is a pro-Russian area. And that's what Putin's trying to get to.
Right, yeah.
So Moldova's really, really stinking poor. I mean, really poor. It's like, for the QAnon people, if they're really looking for the sex trafficking, that's where it happens. Moldova.
Well, if all those people on the right wing who just love Putin, well, this is what, what Trump wanted to do to America. I mean, this is what.
Oh,
they
he's
wanna
not
do.
done trying, of course, and he's not
no.
done trying to do this to America.
And these right-wing evangelicals, they just love him.
Yeah.
Because, he's anti-LGBTQ.
Right.
He's anti-woman.
Right.
I mean, he's everything. They share the same ideology.
Totally. Totally. I'm going to play you something. This is Lauren Witzke. She's an evangelical GOP Senate candidate in Delaware, for God's sake.
Here's the deal also, Russia is a Christian nationalist nation. They're actually Orthodox Christian. I'm Russian Orthodox.
Oh
so, I actually support Putin's right to protect his people and always put his people first, but also protect their Christian values. I identify more with with Putin's Christian values than I do with Joe Biden. There is that. There is that there. Christian nationalist countries also are a threat to the global regime, like the Luciferian regime. It wants to mash everything together, but Putin takes care of his people. He looks out for his people.
That is really sick and
The
twisted.
Luciferian.
You heard it? Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you heard her say that. Yes.
The Christian values. Biden has Christian values.
Well, apparently killing women and children and, bombing hospitals is Christian values now. Who knew? Who knew? I had no idea that, bombing apartment buildings, hospitals, and kindergartens were Christian values. Isn't that interesting? Her name's Lauren Witzke.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, it's Friday, you bastards, and it's the spring pledge drive for Free Speech TV. So I need to, just give you a little, to join us today with a lovely donation that will be matched. It is match day. I love match days because whatever you do goes twice as far, okay? We have frontline funders who will match whatever you can do today. $5, $10, $100, $200 will become $10, $20, $200, $400, $800, whatever, if you can do it today. So give us a quick call at 877-378-8669 or join us at freespeech.org online. And you could become a sustaining donor, meaning you could do it every month if you wanted to, $5, $10, whatever you can. But whatever you do today will be matched up to $10,000 by some really, really wonderful people. So text us if you like to text. Just do 44321 and put in the letters FSTV, and we will send you a link that's secure, and you can follow the actual pledge drive that way. Thank you very much, Rob in Mesa. Rob in Mesa.
Hi, Randi. Hey, I just wanted to point out that it almost looks like the whole Republican Party and the networks are almost extensions of they're just Russian operatives. And the way I look at it,
they're autocrats, is what it is. Yeah, they're people.
Because when you think Putin and Trump, there's no difference between those personalities. They're the exact same person. They're greedy. They're in it for themselves. And then you look at the tactics.
But think about it this way. Keep it nice and simple for yourself, okay, in this particular moment. All those guys are interested in is control, okay? They want complete autonomy. They want complete control over your life. That's why they bother lying to you. That's why they bother with all the propaganda. And that's why they point to other people and say they're the ones that are doing it to you while it's really them doing it. And by it, I mean taking away your right to know, your right to speak, your right to protest, right? Punch them in the face or, we'll have you arrested, whatever. And the thing that they have in common, besides for their autocratic need to control everybody's life, is they're afraid of their own voters. They're afraid of their own citizens. That's the Achilles heel. That's why they always go after voter suppression or gerrymander people out of mattering or make you jump through several thousand hoops to register to vote way before the election even is on your radar screen. And then you find out, oh, there's an election? Yes, but you had to register months ago if you wanted to vote in it, right? And
so that's the one thing I want to... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just remember that the thing that these guys are so afraid of is you and me and the girl next door. That is what they're terrified of.
Right, and the basic technique, if you look at what they're doing, Russia, lie to cheat, lie to steal Ukraine. So they surrounded it, and they lied over the reasons why they're surrounding it. They lied that it's control, right? And then you look at the Republican Party here. They've surrounded our election system over a lie. We're going to go in and fix it. There's nothing broken, but they're doing the same technique. They're going to say, and most Americans have to realize that in the elections, you don't have to cheat like Putin did when he's stuffing the ballots and that. They just have to shave off 8,000 to 10,000 votes. That's all they're trying to do. So when they say, "Oh, we're trying to make this better," they're just trying to shave off enough to win.
Well, the crazy thing about America is the crazy thing about us is that we actually want free and fair elections, and we expect them. Russia, they don't. They know that it doesn't matter who votes; it matters who counts. This is what Trump has learned, and he couldn't find enough, Republicans that were corrupt to the level that he is to rig the count. He didn't care at that point who voted. He cared about who was counting the vote. That's why he called Brad Raffensperger. Can't you just find me? Can't you just find me some votes? Right? They want the people who count the votes to be as corrupt as they are. Well, America didn't get there in the last election. We weren't there yet. You still had some Republicans with some spine and backbone. But those same Republicans, the Brad Raffenspergers, the Kemps of the world, who wouldn't, rig that election, will actually suppress the next one. That much they'll do.
And that's what I'm saying. The lie to steal is in full force. They're lying about the election results so they can put in place these laws that'll make it easier to execute and finish what they tried to do in the last election.
Right, because they're afraid of their own people. And you know what they saw in the last election? They saw more Americans voting in the middle of a pandemic than in the history of elections in the United States. That freaked them out. That scared the bejesus out of them, which is why they created this, we need voter reform. Right? That's why they created the big lie, because they knew it was a useful lie in order to, suppress votes for the next time. They realized they don't have, crooked counters yet, but they could suppress the vote because they're really good at that. They've been doing it to, African Americans and Hispanic voters, Democratic voters in red states for years with the gerrymanders. And, hey, you got to register to vote months in advance, all that. So that they'll do.
And I think that the fear that you had mentioned, that they fear their own people, that's within the Republican Party, because they're acting more like a criminal crime organization.
No, it's simple. It's simple. There are more people who aren't Republican voters than there are people who are Republican voters.
No, I get that. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That's why they have to, be afraid of their own people.
Right, but I was saying in a gang situation, if you're in a gang and you try to get out, they turn on you if you're not part of the gang. And that's exactly what the Republican Party is doing.
That's what leadership does. That's the top. That's the top of the gang, okay? But so that's what Trump does to, other Republicans. He turns on them. He kicks them out of the organization, the mob, right? It's not a gang. It's mafia is what it is. But
it's definitely organized crime. It's almost like you could almost go after the whole Republican Party over RICO.
But the ordinary people, the people who could agree, the people who really want the same things, maybe they have, different propaganda machines telling them there's a way to do exactly what we all want to do, which is educate our kids, have a little house, be able to pay our bills, maybe even, have a summer house someday, maybe even dream about a second house. You know what I mean? Prosper, really have a life, live to live instead of living to pay bills. It's what every American wants. Well,
and one more
if they didn't propagandize, if they didn't tell people, it's them that's doing this to you, it's them over there. If they didn't do that, everyone would vote the same way.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the next election very simply, too. You're either for China, Russian, and the Republicans, or you're for America. I mean, you got to almost draw the line that boldly anymore, because they're acting more like foreign actors than American.
Well, China and Russia are not the same at all.
Well,
so
I know that, but China has not said a whole lot during this whole thing, and it almost looks like Putin has something on.
Why would
China.
they? The West is going to take each other on in the West. Why would they, the East, get involved? Why would
Now
they?
They got economic interest for them. Yeah,
Even strategy. It doesn't make any sense. If I were China and the West was going at it, Russia was taking on America, America was, I would sit back, relax, and enjoy the show, too. I mean, that's like the basic art of war, If your enemies are destroying themselves, do nothing. There's nothing complex about what China is doing, but they're not the same as... I mean, China is full-on communism. Full-on. And genocidal and the whole bit. Russia is a mafia state. A mafia state.
Clear. This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Thank you for everything you've done, but this is the war. And in the war, everything needs to be done until the moment that we prevail. We, together, for the sake of security in Europe, for the sake of prosperity of Europe. Russia tries to turn Ukraine into Syria, and the tactics they deploy are very similar to the one they excelled in Syria. But we should not allow them to create Syria in Europe. We are ready to fight. We will continue fighting. But help us. If you don't, I'm afraid you will have to share responsibility for the lives and sufferings of civilian Ukrainians who die because of ruthless Russian pilots who throw bombs on them.
That's Dmitry Kubilo, who is basically the Secretary of State, Foreign Minister of Ukraine, saying we need help. I mean, I don't know how much more plain you can get. I like when the message is nice and simple and accessible and easy to understand. Help me is really easy. They're bombing us. We need our skies protected. Help us. Give us the equipment. Give us the planes. Give us, any training we need to fly the planes, or give us planes we know how to fly, but do something and do it now. He's right about Syria. You want to see something? This is drone footage of Aleppo after the Russians. Literally, this was the most disgusting. This is one of the most damaged cities in the history of the world. This one and Grozny in Chechnya. These are two cities that the United Nations has said are the most destroyed cities in the history of the world. So there's no audio on this. This is just drone video. Okay, I'm going to show you this one. This drone video of a city, okay? And you can, decide which one is which. So here you see, this is all Russian bombing, though. I will tell you that, okay? I think I gave it away when I told you what I was going to show you, though. Okay, so you have that, right? Now, these are apartments. These are places where people live. This is, where you would have your little barbecue grill on the top there. Okay, so that's one. Here's the other. No, wait. Where's the drone video? Here, this one. Okay, this is, right after Russian bombing. Look, it's still smoking. So, yes, that's Ukraine. That's Borodanka. That is a city near Kyiv. Yesterday. Apartment buildings, roofs, right? Just, a block. Just a standard, block. There you go. Just see all the little houses here. There's no military. There's no legitimate target here at all. There's stores. There's private houses. There's an apartment complex right there. Nothing legitimate at all. Nothing at all that you could say Russia was defending against, or Russia was even conducting an offensive to keep, planes from flying. No, there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. It's just a neighborhood. Okay. So let's just sit here and do nothing. Let's do that. Let's. Here's a little fact before we sign off for the weekend. Okay, here's a little fact. NATO allies could bring together 5.5 million personnel. 5.5 million personnel. Russia can cobble together 1.3 million total personnel. NATO has 144,000 armored units. Russia has 60,000. So 144,000 would be more. It would be almost twice. Well, it would be more than twice. Almost 3 times as many armored vehicles as Russia has. Just saying. Putin wants to fight citizens. Putin wants to fight Syrians who are living in apartment buildings. Putin wants to bomb Chechens who are living in, apartment buildings, or who are in the hospital, or somehow, unrelated to any of the contretemps that were going on in any of those or either of those countries. Meanwhile, in Ukraine, nothing was going on. There is no civil war as there was in Syria. There's no civil war as there was in Chechnya. There was nothing going on in Ukraine. But Putin likes to fight and graze and raze and siege the cities of the innocent citizenry, the civilians. That's who he likes to bomb. That's who he likes to attack. That's who he likes to fight. You know why? Know why? Because he can't take on NATO. He can't take on the U.S. military. NATO would be the U.S. military, the French Air Force, the British Royal Air Force, the Polish Air Force. On and on and on it goes. There's no way. There's no way. So why do we have all this? Why do we have all this? We say it's a defensive force, and it is. But we have gone and done things in countries that aren't part of NATO. Syria is one of those. We got involved in Chechnya. I swear to God, I don't. I really believe that what everybody who is trying to avoid, facing Putin, conflicting with Putin, getting involved with Putin, is hoping for is that he won't be able to afford to pay his soldiers. He won't be able to afford to gas his armored vehicles. He won't be able to afford to buy jet fuel or put jet fuel in it. I don't know. That and his people will rise up, and that will freak him out, and he will settle this. He will peacefully walk away, call a ceasefire, find an off-ramp, whatever. I think that's what they're hoping. So if that's what they're counting on, if that's what they're hoping for, okay, I will say kudos to Biden. He put together an awesome global sanctions team of people who all said no to Russia. It's interesting because Russia's oil is not sanctioned. Do you know that? That is true. There is no sanction on Russian oil exports. None. But insurance companies don't want to insure the freight. Freightliners like Maersk don't want to take the freight. Nobody wants to receive Russian oil. Nobody wants anything to do with Russia right now. So that's why you're not seeing any Russian oil go to Europe, or you're saying, because we don't really have any Russian oil that we rely on. So Russian oil isn't sanctioned. I'm listening to some lunatic, fringy people, or I don't know, people who can't think their way out of a paper bag saying we ought to lay down with dogs again. Yeah, to get more oil. We should partner up with Iran, or we should partner up with Venezuela and Maduro. Are you kidding me? To avoid what? Paying another $1? That's pretty, lily-livered, I gotta say. That's pretty yellow-bellied of you to say stuff like that. But okay. So anyway, we don't suffer with the lack of Russian oil. We just don't. And there is no sanction on Russian oil. Just know that. Oh, I'm not. Dirk in California.
Please enter a number.
Oh, Dirk in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, you bastard.
I just talked to Siri, and Siri said Moldova is not part of NATO.
There you go.
The thing I also wanted to say is to all the bastards out there, it's match day. It feels so great to donate on match days.
Oh, you did it? Did you donate?
Yeah, I did.
Yay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's bankrupt those frontline funders. Come on, folks out there. And it's just one real last quick thing is back in 1968, my family and I were actually tourists in the Soviet Union, and we saw the tanks rolling down the street going to Czechoslovakia. And
oh my God.
Yeah, the thing my sister remembered too is that the tanks and all the trucks had their license plates turned around. So
yes, they still do that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just.
So I think I figured out what the Z is. I think it's Zelensky.
Oh.
Because there is no Z in Cyrillic. You know that? So they.
No, I actually speak Russian too.
I don't know. I don't know if that's true. It's just something that dawned on me yesterday or this morning. Something. I was writing Zelensky's name and I wrote the Z and I went, oh, you never know. Sometimes I have these aha moments and they turn out to be like really true. And other times, ideas, crap. Try to have a weekend